Hello, and welcome to Politically Incorrect Economics. I'm your host, Chase Diedrich. Today, we're going to be talking about parking at the University of Regina. And if you've spent any time at the University of Regina, you know that parking is absolutely terrible. Uh, it's been so terrible that the students at the university have been consistently complaining for over a decade. It was so bad at one point in 2011 that they had an open forum with the president of the school to take suggestions. Uh, the reason that the parking is so bad is because the university is running is essentially a scam. How does the scam work? Well, at first, they won't tell you anything material about the permits and the passes. And as we can see on the website that they have, the M permits, which is typically is like the bulk of the parking that's done on school for students. Um, it makes up several lots. So they'll show us, okay, we can see what the lots are that we can get into the permit passes. They say that they're non-plugins, but we can't really tell anymore, like how many permits are there, how many stalls are there. There's no information there. We can go in, we can see the rates. Look at, let's see, M area, non-plug-in. They give you the price. Right now it's available. But that being said, we're in August, so school hasn't even started yet. So give it to 2 weeks, and those will be all gone, and you'll be stuck in waitlist purgatory. They have M evening passes. Again, there's no material factors on the number of passes that are being sold currently, or the number of stalls that are available for these types of parking passes. So um, we can go into this, and I've been diving into it, and I was getting frustrated with the inability to park, and I was getting late for all my classes because I'd show up and I'd spend anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour sometimes trying to find a spot. I'd get late and then I got pissed off, and then I would start to pay for metered parking to supplement the parking pass, which made things even more expensive. And if you get caught in the wrong spot, they'll ticket the shit out of you, and the tickets are expensive, and like there's no remorse. These people have no remorse. So I got upset and I started asking questions. So I asked the Director of Finance, Administration, Parking, and Transportation Services. I said, hey, is it possible for you to provide me with the information regarding the number of M stalls as well as the number of M passes sold of each category? So right now they're starting immediately she's slippery. Good afternoon. Could you provide me some background to this information request and what it is required for? Instead of just being like, hey, you're part of the general public, I should be giving you, this information so that you can make a decision on buying a permit. So I say, as a parking pass holder, I would like to understand how 90% of the M park I got shitty right away. How 90% of the M parking stalls are filled by 9 a.m. each morning. Often it takes over half an hour to find a spot, and I'm regularly late for class because of it. Sometimes I'm forced to pay for time stalls to avoid being late. So she says, good morning, I'm sorry for the delayed response. I was gathering information. We have approximately 2,400 M stalls, and we sold approximately 2,600 full-time M permits for the semester. We do lot counts numerous times during the day and week. Not once was lot one full. So this comes part of like the argument that they're trying to make, which I'll show you in the email of another guy's that's higher than her in the chain. In fact, there was never fewer than 4 rows available. So to put that into context real quick, so if there's 2,400 spots and 4 rows available, I believe that we can look in Google Maps here, and we can see actually. So they're saying that there's four rows. So right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So let's just say it's 20 times 4. So, holy, 20 times 4. So if 24, sorry, divided by 24 spots, That's a vacancy rate of 3%. So they're saying, well, we have a vacancy rate of 3%. So, we're doing good with the amount of permits that we're selling. So as long as the vacancy rate doesn't close down to zero, we figure that selling permits is a-okay. And personally, I think that's a ridiculous argument to make. So I kept digging and kept digging and kept digging. So um, so I kept asking, it's like, do you know how? She says, I don't have the stats for the part-time. I keep pressing her, and she says, I don't have stats for the part-time permits. The staff decided today almost entirely to do away with part-time permits. They're only intended for programs that have clauses, she spelled it, at both the U of R and SAS Poly. We have 5 people out enforcing whatever. So I said to her, "How do you not have the stats for the number of part-time permits? Your office has the data on the transactions and the number of issued permits. If you're the director in charge of parking and are incapable of providing data, regardless of the sales of your permits, that your department generates, it speaks to your level of competency. And if you don't have the numbers of part-time permits, how do you know how many you can sell?" So I kind of smelled bullshit right off the bat and kept pressing and kept pressing. So I started the typical trick, and you go above her head. So I start sending this email off to this guy, Neil Paskowitz. So I said, hey, did the parking facilities at the U of R fall within your scope of responsibilities? And he says, yes, it is. Can I help you with something? And then I told him I have a strong reason to believe that parking permits have been significantly oversold. I had ran an audit myself on the parking permits, and I had come to the conclusion that they're they're ridiculously overselling them. So I asked him about it, and he doesn't get back to me for a while. So he says, "Were you not able to find an M parking stall anywhere on campus, including the south end of Lot 1? Just because the 3% vacancy is somehow even acceptable to the associate vice president of facilities management, Neil Paskowitz, PNG." He says, typically these spots are not filled, indicating that our supply exceeds our demand. I said, I said, well, I'm not buying that. So he says, so I pretty much asked him, I said, I want to see the data on the issued permits going back a decade. I know exactly how many of each type are issued. Pauline says she doesn't have that information, but I know it is available. The organization of the permit numbers are too clean for there not to be a list somewhere. And then he says, she gives me, I don't know, they just try to gum it all up. And then he says, the other information that you request is not relevant, and I have instructed our staff that they need not spend time on this. So immediately there's a little bit of hostility out of that office. So anyways, I kept digging and digging and digging, and I found out that the university falls into the category of a government agency because they're legislated into place, which means that they are subject to FOI requests, which is awesome because I FOI requested, and what we see here is we got a permit inventory. So um, what we see here is that they have a list of all the different types of M permits, which is the one that we're looking at specifically because they're the bulk of the student parking. So there's like a huge variation of categories of types, and it's kind of hard to disseminate. So we can go look here. So MA Friday it's a Friday pass in August for the M lots. So then here it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so forth down. So we don't need August because we're only going to go look in winter because this is when I started asking all the questions, and we're gonna see if Pauline Tresler was correct in her statement that there was 26 full-time passes sold, 2,600 full-time passes, which is also misleading because there's other types of passes that are not full-time. So we're just going to look at the full-time passes. So we go down. So J is June, JY is July. So for part-times. So here we go, MFW. That means M parking fall and winter. So we'll put that aside so we can count it up later. FN University, FN, those are passes that would have likely been valid. during that period. Oops. So we push, push, push. I do not know what LOs are, so I'm not going to include them. Luther is this would be year-round, likely. So the Friday, I have no idea what the M stands for. So Wednesday night, okay, here we go. There's another one. This is parking winter. So there they have parking winter. The SPC is, this one's hard to describe because it's not a typical pass. It's in fact something else. So we're going to take a look because I've gone through. What I believe them to be is this temporary pass that they sell because I can't find them anywhere else in the list. And these passes can be valid up to a year. So this one, May 1st, 2000, is that 15? 2016 or 2015 or whatever. So we go to the next one, 2016, 2016, 2016. So significant level of permits of this type have been valid for a significant portion of time. So we're going to count those numbers too. We're going to use that number. So then this one's spring, summer. This one's just spring. This one's just summer. No idea what UR means. We're not going to count them. MU of R, I believe this is for staff. So then we keep going down. So where's the part-times? The winter part-times, which are right here. So of permits valid for the winter months, it's 4,779. I understand there's a little bit of variation there, but that is still twice the amount of permits than there is parking stalls available. Even if we look at what they have for just M passes in total, right here, we can see that there's 8,400 permits sold over the year for just the M lots. And as we can see by the low numbers of the spring, the summer, and the spring summer, which is only like 449, which, I mean, it's insignificant in comparison to the rest of the year. So the bulk of those permits are valid over the fall and winter semesters. What's more shocking about that is as we go into the bottom of the list and we start to see, well, look at here. We see there's temps, replacements, stolen, retiree, contract, vendor. Well, that's another, well, I have no idea, but just the contractor, that's another 470. And those could be valid throughout the year. Here they have external conference offices, FNU University, ADD, AATNC permits, U of R guests. So they're expanding and contracting the amount of permits that are in circulation on a whim to exorbitant amounts. I mean, it's no wonder that it's such a shock for students to be in this kind of a situation. And if you ever spend any time at the school, some days the people are circling the lots looking for a spot like sharks. It's kind of ridiculous. Like sometimes I bet you the closer lots have an extra 20% of capacity just from the number of cars that are circling around. Not 20% capacity, but there's 20% more cars in there because of the amount of cars that are circulating around. So if we take together the fact that they're just like withholding all this type of information to make sure that the permit holders don't get it, and they're selling way more permits than they have parking spaces, this is definitely a scam. If I knew that this was like this at the point of purchasing the permit, I would have never done it. And currently, I only buy underground passes because I know it's a little bit more, but the value it's so much greater. I mean, sure, you pay $120, but from the point that I get onto the school site to the point I like park and get to class, I mean, it's like 10 minutes rather than 45, 50. And then my car is also kind of protected from the elements. So this is how the University of Regina runs its parking pass. If you have any questions,